We'll try that again when I'm not muted. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Crypto Kindness channel. My name is Jeff. Excited to have you here this morning. I think we're going to have a fantastic conversation. We've already got 75 people waiting. I think that's the one of the best introductions I've ever had in terms of coming into a full house here, which is awesome. So I know nobody is here to see me, and I'm okay with that. They're all here to see my guest, which is the founder of TitanX Crypto, Jake Sharpe. And we're going to jump into that. But real quick, 10-second favor to ask of you. As this channel grows, my goal for the channel is to continue to bring in experienced crypto investors and crypto founders so we can interview them, we can learn from them, and we can all grow together. And in order to do that, the number one metric these people look at when I invite them onto my channel is the number of subscribers on my the reach that they're going to have when they come onto my channel. So if you are here this morning and you haven't yet hit the subscribe button, please take 1 second and just click the subscribe button. And when that happens, it helps me attract other people to come in, and I can ask them questions and we can all learn together. So help me help you by simply hitting the subscribe button. So early morning here for me. I'm only got like 2 sips of coffee in. So I'm going to be stumbling a little bit until I wake up. Jake, of course, is plenty awake. He's probably done 937 push-ups already this morning. And we're ready to go. So without further ado, let's jump right into this. Welcome back to the channel, Jake Sharpe.
Yo, everything good? I'm excited. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Well, not even a while. It was been 2 weeks, but 2 weeks feels like 7 years in crypto.
Well, 2 weeks is, it's about 2/3 of how long TitanX has been out. And it's kind of interesting is that people were starting to wonder if you pulled a Richard Hart on us.
Yeah, especially with my 300 tweets a day.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Launch the protocol and then disappear like Kaiser Sose. No, that's funny. It's what's crazy is the number of people that actually reach out to me and they're like, "Bro, where's Jake? What's going on?" Like, he's on vacation. It's okay. Things happen. So, yeah, man, we've already got 100 people here this morning. This is shocking, and they're here to say, "I love you, Jake," which is fantastic. So real quick, you haven't been on stream in almost 2 weeks. How was it watching from the outside? I mean, I have to imagine you were engaged with the family doing fun stuff, but the whole time you're just wanting to check this or check that. Like, tell me what it was like to not be able to be as involved.
I mean, I have to say thank you to Mike Dean because I've been staring at this Dune Analytics dashboard whenever I can. It's so good. There's been 2 Dune Analytics dashboards I stare at. One is the Mike Dean one. There's another one. It's called T-Data. It's a Chinese one, but if you do translate to English, you can use it. Mm-hmm. And there's another Dune dashboard. It's called the TitanX Buy and Burn. Those are the 3 ones that I constantly stare at. They're so good. They're so good. Just to get an idea of like the health of the protocol. And so far, so good. Everything's just been great. Like one of the mental models I've been using for TitanX is when I look at the chart and when I look at the actual like supply mechanics and stuff like that, I try to approach it from, I'm not the creator of it. And I just like look at everything as objectively as possible.
Okay.
That helps a lot because then you can just objectively look at everything. Okay, what's the supply coming out? How does the buy and burn at? How does this kind of play out into the future? I was just been staring at Dune Analytics, and every hour I can get to myself, I'm just going hard on Twitter. Pretty much.
Can you actually look at it and not have the perception, the bias of this is my project? I mean, can you really objectively look at that?
Oh, for sure I can. Yeah, okay. I don't have an issue doing it.
Well, that's impressive. I don't know that I could do that. It's hard enough for me, participating in the protocol to look at it and not try to have some sort of bias one way or the other. I do my best not to, and that's the whole reason why I do a lot of these streams is to just ask questions and hear both sides. There are people that are still very, very leery of what's going on. In fact, we're actually going to dive into that. But what type of what type of questions are people reaching out to you with and like asking you, challenging you on? Because I sometimes feel like I come from a medicine background, and when you're in a medical office, the patients complain like mad to the nurses and the MAs that are getting ready, getting them ready before the doctor comes in. They got all these complaints and the doctor's this and all this type of stuff. And then when the doctor comes in, they're like, "Oh my God, hey," and none of those complaints ever come up. And so I'm wondering, do you hear the complaints, or is it just me that hears all the complaints?
I'm so used to it. Yeah. Like being like an influencer, and for a while you kind of just get used to it. Yeah. The main question is when hyper.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like the first comment on everything is like when hyper. Another angle is oh, this thing just inflates and goes to zero, which, I mean, we can talk about that. The price has been holding up so damn well, so damn well with all supply coming out. It's beautiful to see. So that's not even an issue. And then what other stuff do I usually get? Those are the two big ones. When Hyper, more information on Hyper. How do you see the future play out? Which I can't really answer as a founder, but the supply looks very good. I actually want one of the alpha items that would be interesting to talk about is because the price stays relatively high during the beginning of the protocol. Like in theory, it should nuke.
Right. Yeah,
but it doesn't. It just refuses to nuke, which is beautiful to see. And then as people do short-term miners, they can't hurt the price that much. It's only the long-term miners that can really hurt the price because the short-term miners, they pay so much more for every Titan they get. So they can only really dump it down to a certain price to the point where they're unprofitable. They haven't even gotten to that point. But like the short-term miners are actually the ones feeding the long-term miners because they can't make the long-term miners unprofitable because they pay so much more per Titan that they get, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to a few of the questions. So I've got some challenging questions here for you today, and I want to dive into a few things that I've been doing some chain analytics, and I know a lot of people in the community have been. So obviously, when you dive in, you find things and you have questions. So we're going to get into that. The eat the frog, get the nasty part out of the way first, and then we'll get into the bullish stuff like the hyper and whatnot. So first question I have for you is based on these data, and so I'll bring this up. Let's see. We're just going to share the entire screen. And let's see. Okay, that's a little bit of a headache, but we're going to jump in. So, okay, so can we see the TitanX dashboard here?
I see the beauty right in front. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So right here, we've got the liquid supply. Liquid supply says 9.23%, which is about 372 billion TitanX. My question is when we go over to the Etherscan, are you able to see this?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. The Genesis wallet holds 321 billion TitanX. So clearly the statistic on the website going back here of liquid at 9.23% doesn't include the Genesis wallet. Why is that?
Yep. Hover over the question mark next to liquid.
Question mark. Okay.
So it excludes Genesis. So there's two very important things. So Genesis, as you can see, it will never hit the market. Genesis will come into play when Hyper comes out. I can't say how or what it will do because of expectations, but the Genesis is designed to make, how do you say it? So what I used to say before TitanX goes live is there needs to be some kind of benevolent whale that can keep all the projects afloat that are built on top of TitanX. And because all the big liquidity pairs are going to be TitanX or paired with something else, so for example, the Hyper liquidity pair is going to be TitanX Hyper, there needs to be a benevolent whale that is willing to lose money to feed those liquidity pools.
Correct.
That's one. The other thing is it will never hit market, as you can see in the little question mark. The other thing is, so if you go to the Etherscan and you see the supply, this also includes the V1 buy and burn contract. So there's a technical thing. The V1 buy and burn contract, the way it works, so in the TitanX code, you have two buy and burn contracts. Now everything has been V2 since day 8, pretty much. So V1, whenever V1 activates and buys and burns, it can't burn because the buy and burn can't burn TitanX. The only thing that can burn TitanX is the buy and burn contract that is currently active. So as you can see in the V2, whenever you see a buy and burn transaction on Dex Cleaner or whatever, it sends it to the null address. It doesn't actually send it to the null address, it literally burns it. It's the ERC20 burn function.
Okay.
With the V1, it can't burn because it can only burn whatever the active buy and burn contract is. So every once in a while, the V1 will activate, will be put on as buy and burn again, will burn all of it. But basically, if you see the second one, the smart contract, this supply is burned. There's no way to access it, no way to move it, no way to transfer it. It can only be burned, but it needs to be the active buy and burn contract. So every once in a while, you'll see this disappear. So that one you can just ignore. And then the Genesis, after Hyper, this is kind of a no expectations thing, but everything has been kind of thought of. And I'm very aware of 4 or 5 serious protocols building on top of TitanX. I haven't seen any white papers, but it's been a reputable name. So I think it's going to be good.
Sweet. Okay, so thank you for answering that about the V1 contract, because that was actually the next question out of my mouth is why is the V1 contract holding TitanX? And it's the second largest holder when you look at here. But so if I understood you correct, when this gets activated again, we don't know when that's going to be, but when it gets activated again, we can expect to see this supply disappear.
But not the buy and burn activated. It becomes the buy and burn contract of TitanX. Then it flushes it, so it basically just burns it, like it does with V2 now, and then V2 goes back in. So it's like a cleanup service. After a while living somewhere, you have like a storage room with a bunch of garbage in it, and every once in a while a cleaning crew comes, they pick up the garbage, they remove it. That's kind of like the V1.
Okay.
So the V1 buy and burn is exactly the same as the dead adder. It's pretty much the simplest way to look at it.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. One thing you said there that I need to challenge you on, though, is you said going back to the Genesis wallet and where over the question mark where it says it will never hit the market. I'm just going to click on the Genesis wallet here on Etherscan, and in following this, did I click on the right one?
Yes, the right one.
Yeah, yesterday I was taking a look at this, and there was actually a Uniswap transaction that took place.
Yeah, but that's with the Ethereum. So the Genesis gets two things. It gets 3% of the Ethereum, and it gets 8% of the TitanX minted.
Okay.
So the Uniswap transaction you see is with Ethereum. Because if Genesis decides to do something, it dumps Ethereum, it doesn't dump TitanX, which is very, very important. Because in other protocols, the founders have to dump the actual token to get some kind of liquidity for something they want to do. In TitanX, that's not the case. And this was very deliberately designed because one of the biggest issues you have with protocols where there's a big founder allocation. Like, for example, I was looking around at founder allocations, and there was there's one token. It's from Call from the Moon. It's like a big crypto influencer.
Mhm.
He launched a token, Casta. 97% of the supply was insiders, founders, advisors, team supply, and then 3% was the public allocation.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. The issue is, if they ever want to have liquidity to fund the dev team or whatever they want to do, they have to dump the token on the market, so they hurt the price as they try to grow the thing. So that's a big design principle that we implemented into TitanX, where if we ever need liquidity for something, then we have Ethereum. We don't actually need to hurt the price.
Gotcha. So I like that answer. The question I have then leading to that is, and maybe you can't answer this because it's a Genesis wallet, but what is the Uniswap transaction that's happening? What is the Ethereum being swapped for?
If you look on chain, one was Ethereum to USDT, and then off to Binance. And I think all the ones have been the same.
Okay, so it's to USDT. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I just looked at the swap. I was looking through there. I was realizing I was probably making everybody on stream, if they're watching it, sick to their stomach because I was looking for that Uniswap transaction. So I apologize. I didn't find it. I didn't bring it up. But you just answered the next question: is what was the Ethereum swap to? And then you said it was sent to Binance. Okay, perfect. So that'll be one thing for the people that are doing all the chain analysis is pay attention to does the Titan in the Genesis wallet continue to grow, or is that what's being swapped? So far,
no, it will continue to grow because it gets 8% of the all the mints.
Damn it, Jake! I thought I had you. I thought I had you in the corner. I was all excited. I was like, got him this time. Not like I'm actually trying to, but you got to ask the questions, right? You got to find out what's going on. So, all right. So you answered why it's not answered this. Oh, geez, this is going way better than I thought it was going to go. So the next question I have is the buy and burn. Everybody is super excited. I'm seeing a lot of people tweeting about it. Like the allocation of the buy and burn is going up. Let's take a look at that. What is it to now? 2.28 ETH?
That's 2.8. 2.8 every 8 minutes.
2.8 every 8 minutes on V2. So right here, yep, 2.8 ETH every 8 minutes. No global cap. We've got 6,242 ETH. So, question for you. I did the math on this yesterday. That's roughly, let's see, I'll just do it right now. 256 ETH a day, I believe.
No, it depends. So I have a couple calculations. I calculate how much the buy and burn actually burns. And one of the biggest things that impacts us the most is the actual trigger rate. I call it the effective on-time trigger rate. So even though it's callable every 8 minutes, it doesn't get called every 8 minutes. It's like every 8 minutes, 32 seconds, or every 8 minutes, 57 seconds. Because that user has to actually call a transaction. So the way I calculated, I put like an effective on-time trigger rate of 85. And at 2.8 every 8 minutes, it should, in theory, spend roughly 440 Ethereum. Now, what I've been using is if you go to Dune Analytics, there's a dashboard. If you look up if you search TitanX, it's called TitanX Buy and Burn. And then you can see the actual effective amount it bought every day with the dates. I'll send it on Telegram.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been following the doing analytics on the buy and burn. I was just doing crude math, which and I'll bring that up here in a second. If it's clicked every 8 minutes, which it's not, as you said, that's 252 ETH a day at the current burn rate, and at 252 ETH a day, there's 24 days worth of ETH in the buy and burn, assuming that no more comes in.
Exactly.
My question to you is, why not let the price fall down to the floor price instead of continuously ratcheting up the BNB? Because there's going to be a pendulum swing at some point, or maybe not. But there's going to be a pendulum swing, or there should be, based on just the mechanics of it all, that where the short-term miners will eventually, be break even or not in profit. Why not let that happen?
Because and this is one of the things that had a crap ton of models on how TitanX will play out over time. It surpassed all of them. And one of the things is short-term miners, they can't hurt the price that much. Because, for example, if you do let's use an example. Let's do like 14-day miner. So if you do a 14-day miner, you pretty much break even. If you do a 20-day miner, 60%-ish. 28-day miner is like a 2x roughly. It's 127% ROI, which is 227%, as people say it on Twitter. They pay a lot more per time. So just to give an example, if you do a max length miner now, so 280 days at 100 power, you get 1.41 billion TitanX, and you spend roughly $467 in Ethereum at this price, which is, so what you do is you do 467 divided by 1.419 billion is an effective cost of 0.6032. So 6032. Remember that. So 6032. And then you have the 28-day one is 198 million. It costs the same. So 467 divided by 188 million is 5 zeros and a 2. So instead of paying 6 zeros 32, they're paying 5 zeros 23. So they're almost paying 10x more. So the fact that people and they're paying the exact same amount of Ethereum to the protocol. So they feed the staking payouts, they feed the buy and burn, but they can't hurt the price that much. So the short-term people are actually helping and feeding all the long-term people, which is very interesting. So you actually want a lot of short-term miners because it's better for the protocol and better for the chart.
Well, now that isn't the answer I expected. Okay,
Me neither. It's just something I figured out. It's great.
So we want the short-term miners, even though they're essentially selling for profit.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
How long? I guess one analogy you can kind of use is, let's say you're a supermarket and you can buy carrots. You can buy carrots in 2 days for $10 per carrot, or you can wait 100 days and buy your carrots for $2, so 5 times less. So one buys in 2 days, they pay $10. The other one waits 100 days, they buy it for $2. The guys that want to do quick supply flips of like the $10 carrots, they have to sell the carrots at a higher price to have like a profit margin. But then the suppliers that are willing to wait the longest, they can come in and they can basically beat out all of that competition because they have such a lower cost per carrot. So the short-term people are actually going out of business as the long-term people come in over time. It's an analogy. It's not super accurate, but kind of.
No, I mean, it makes sense. The short-term people will go out of business because they're short-term thinkers. Essentially, they're looking for. That makes sense because they're not going to be able to keep up with the decreasing supply and increasing price. If they keep
and then the price floor.
Yeah,
exactly. And the price floor keeps moving up. There's more Ethereum. You get less TitanX, so the price floor just creeps up. And at some point, they're gonna have to be forced to go longer out. But the main idea is that short-term people can't really do much. It's all the long-term people that actually control the longevity of the project, like the actual long-term price.
Nice. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's the mechanics of it. And some of the bigger game theory people I know are just talking about that. They're hammering that point, just like long-term. Because I mean, we're seeing it now. The amount of TitanX produced per day by a miner is gosh, what, 15, 20% less than it was just a month ago already. And it costs more.
Yep.
It costs more twofold because just the ETH necessary to create it is more, and then ETH itself is more.
Yep.
So you've got three factors working with each other to ratchet down the availability of TitanX in the future. That's kind of impressive. This is the question that never gets old and seems to never be answered, even though we've asked you this every single time I've had you on stream. Admin keys, sir. So again, the one of the bigger sticking points people have, which at some point you just have to ask yourself, Dixon, if this bothers you, why are you here? Like, that's the question. If it bothers you, why are you here? It's been discussed. It's been known for 45 days. You said from day one that this was a thing, but we'll ask it again, and I'll never ask you again. Why is Jake using the admin keys to manipulate his project? Why are you using admin keys to fluctuate the V1, V2?
So this is funny because this Dixon Sider dude, he's a very big pool chain dude. Guess who owns 95% of the supply of Pulse Chain? Guess who owns 95% of the supply of Pulse X and Hex? Guess who has all the admin keys to all the bridges? Do you think the bridge code all of a sudden went from 3% fee to 0% fee magically through code? No, that's an admin key doing that. So it's like they're trying to point at my garden, being like, hey, look, that garden is dirty. Well, that garden is on fire. So I just ignore these questions. Like it's kind of annoying in the community. It's totally fine. Like the admin keys can't do damage to the project. If anything, the admin keys only help. Like it only does helpful functions. There's no flush, there's no transfer. The ETH is locked in a smart contract, so it's not like I can rug pull the ETH or whatever. The liquidity pool is locked, so I can't even rug pull the liquidity. Like TitanX is now out into the wild, and nobody can actually shut it down. So the only thing the admin keys can do is things that are beneficial to the project. So that should pretty much, because like, yeah, it's interesting. These are the whole like concern troll things. Oh, what if this happens? Or like, oh, what is this thing? Well,
I love that concern troll. Yeah, and you know what? I guess one thing too, because here's another fudder. Is Jake still selling the mastermind course? I mean, maybe that's an honest question because he wants to get in it. I don't know. I shouldn't assume that that's FUD. And in fact, a lot of people have asked me about that recently. But it's funny that it seems like the more attention TitanX garners, the more hate seems to come out of the woodwork. So, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Like, why the more the hate that comes in? I know the answer to this question, but I'd love to hear you say it. Like the value of the FUD. What's the value of the FUD?
There's a lot of value. So for the people that have read Reality Transferring, there's this concept called the pendulum. And the pendulum, you can kind of look at it as an energy structure in space, where the more people attach emotionally to that energy structure. So you have the positive side. For example, a gym or a certain workout routine can have a pendulum. And then if people get attached to the pendulum, it actually benefits their life, but they kind of become part of the pendulum, the energy structure. The thing is, the way pendulums work is it doesn't care if your energy is good or bad. As long as you give energy to the pendulum only gets stronger and it swings harder. So the FUD, the people that FUD and hate TitanX, they feed the pendulum with the most energy humanly possible, more than the actual supporters do. So from a very kind of universe, kind of energy perspective, it's great. It's so good because they're feeding the pendulum. They're just fueling the pendulum without even knowing it. They think that stopping the swing, but in fact, it's swinging even harder because of them.
They're giving it more energy. Yeah. Fuel on the fire. It's very true. Srey Ox says long-term miners is like Black Friday, always getting something at a discount. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Next question for you. In the last of the Eat the Frog series of questions, unless of course I think of something else. There has been accusations, of course, that V1 is not actually there to support the ecosystem, but instead is there to support Jake Sharpe's ending miners.
This is the interesting thing. Yeah, I've seen this a lot. This is another topic of discussion. So I'm thinking, I like explaining things to analogy. So let's go back to first principles. What can the V1 do? It can trigger a buy and burn. It can increase the cap, trigger a buy and burn. Users can also trigger the buy and burn if the cap increases. And then it pushes up the price on market. How exactly does that make your life worse? I don't get it. Yeah, if the V1 moves, it's beneficial to everybody. It's not beneficial to my wallet specifically.
That's a good point. And the other, I mean, the counterpoint to that is I see people say the same thing, like, well, he's just pushing the V1 button when he wants to sell his miners. And then the counter question is, well, what exactly are you going to do when you sell your miners? Press the V2 button. So what's the difference? And then of course the other long-term question, or the question is like, oh, he's just dumping, and everybody's just dumping. Why dump and the price go down? Well, okay. What are you going to do when you get your TitanX on the market and it's up 30x? You're going to dump it. Maybe, depending on what's out there. But it's just the psychology of it's kind of like the point the finger. You don't do that, because if you do that, I won't be able to do it when I want to.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People can actually put alerts on each scan or whenever the V1 triggers. It's a global thing. Everybody can enjoy it. So it's interesting. So my miners, I did minimum 60 days. So I've had like 3 or 4 miners come out on day 28.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of my miners haven't even come out yet, which is interesting. Because I have like the minimum 60-day rule. And I kind of follow that with most of my miners.
Yeah.
Personal. Because I also put my personal money in this project, like a lot.
And one of the guys that I have come to respect for just tokenomics analysis and all the game theory, I asked the same question, like thoughts on V1, and he's like, as long as it's stabilizing the system, doesn't really bother me either side of the coin. Operating costs are a bitch, and it is what it is. It's stabilizing the system, and there's need for that, and there's also need for the sell. So. All right, I think we've gone through my gotcha questions, and I wasn't able to gotcha. Dang it. One of these days. Okay. All right. So we're gonna jump into the more bullish stuff. Win Lambo, sir.
I'm not the biggest Lambo fan.
Yeah, neither am I.
Yeah.
What is next? That's the question. So you put out a tweet, I don't know, a week or so ago that just said 2.8. And there was a space in there. So that space, it wasn't 28, it was 2.8. So I'm curious, was that some sort of a subliminal message surrounding what might be coming for the future? So win Hyper, sir.
So Hyper is kind of interesting. There's a lot of game theory that goes into Hyper. Timing is important. So for example, TitanX was timed to be launched at the beginning of the bull run. But the sideways year ended in November, which is why we launched in November. The Hyper also has a lot of game theory to it on when is the best time to actually launch it. You want to launch it when most supply is in existence, and you also want to launch it. So this is something I've noticed in the system. On day one, there was a lot of Asia that was part of TitanX.
Okay.
And I've tracked a lot of these Asian wallets. I don't post this stuff publicly because I don't like fucking other people's wallets. But I track them like personally. And a lot of these Asian people, they kind of got pissed off after day 2. So all of these wallets, the moment they get their supply, they dump. They don't care about anything else. They don't stake. Like I've never seen Asian wallets stake. There's maybe like 2 or 3 big ones that I've tracked. But in general, they dump. So Hyper, you want Hyper to launch when all the malicious people are out of the system. So I have days of when most of the miners are out, like the big people. If there's like $5,000-$10,000, I don't really track them. But like the big people, like 100,000, 200,000, you want those out of the system. Then second, you want to launch when there's a lot of supply into existence. You also want to launch on a critical time in the chart, and you also want to launch at a good point in the bull market. Like ideal scenario, it'll very likely launch before that, very, very likely. But ideal scenario would be very close to the Bitcoin halving, which happens in April. It will be live before that, but the closer we can launch to that, the better it is, because then you have a new narrative going into the Bitcoin halving bull run. It's a narrative play as much as it is a project play.
Okay.
As a yeah.
So you had originally stated 90 to 140 days ish from launch is when you expected Hyper. Are you still on track for that, or is that potentially getting pushed back closer to the Bitcoin halving?
No, it's very close.
Okay. And then the white paper.
Very good estimate. The white paper will be sooner. Yeah, for sure. The white paper will be sooner. When? I don't know. I guess people have to watch the subliminals.
The 28th of December, maybe.
Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I know. I'm trying to get you to slip up and say something, man. That's the goal here. So what is the play for Hyper? I mean, obviously the white paper is not out. We can only speculate so much. People really want to hear about Hyper. Give the Cliffs Notes again on what Hyper is and how it's going to bring value to TitanX.
There's a lot of elements to it. So Hyper, first off, first principles, you can bring Hyper into existence by burning either liquid or staked TitanX. The stake length doesn't matter. As of now, we're playing around with the stake in a little bit, but still you can burn stakes. That's never going to change. And you get 100% accredited. So for example, if you have 1 billion TitanX and you burn it for Hyper, you'll get 1 billion Hyper base. And then there's also going to be an early adoption amplifier on Hyper where you can get 10% more, similar to the TitanX early adoption. And that goes to 0 over 350 days, exact same as the TitanX early adoption amplifier. But the base is going to be 1. So you're always going to be able to get 1 Hyper for 1 TitanX, which means that Hyper adopts the disinflationary mechanics of TitanX. And as more TitanX gets burned, the more TitanX Hyper becomes more scarce with it. Because you always need at least 1 Titan to create 1 Hyper. That's always going to be the case. So they're going to be pretty much lockstep together. Another thing is, so you can burn liquid or you can burn stake. And Hyper, you're going to be able to earn trustless yield, meaning that you can lock your Hyper up from anywhere from 8 days all the way to 888. So not as long as TitanX, we can do 888. If you do 8, it starts at 8% APR. If you go 888, you get 25%. So if you do 888, that's roughly a little bit more than 2 years. So it's not 35% you get on that because it's 35% APR. But if you do 888, it's actually roughly 84% that you get because it's 35% a year. There's like 2 years of that, a little bit more days. That adds up to like 84%. The reason this is cool is because there's very likely going to be massive arbitrage opportunities between TitanX and Hyper. And then because the people that want to act on these arbitrage opportunities, they will have to buy TitanX on market and burn it for Hyper, which acts as like a natural user buy and burn function. Because they buy it on the market and burn it for Hyper. And then when they're in Hyper, they lock it up for a period of time, which pushes it back in time. And then by the time they get it, TitanX will be that much more disinflationary because every day it reduces and increases the amount that it costs. So Hyper is also a way to take the supply, push it further in the future so that the protocol has time to breed and kind of the price floor to move up over time. So at its core, it's trustless yield. Then also, you're going to have to pay a little bit of a protocol fee. So at this point, it's 0.2 Ethereum per 1 billion TitanX, which that's not a lot. It's a relatively low fee. The reason we did the low fee is because, one, we want to add something real to it. Ethereum is real. That gives more value to Hyper. The Ethereum will buy TitanX on market and then swap it for Hyper, which doesn't impact the TitanX wrapped Ethereum price, so it doesn't impact the market price, but it pushes up the ratio. Because every time the buy and burn triggers, Hyper becomes more expensive than TitanX, meaning that 1 Hyper gets you more TitanX. So that the buy and burns alone will push up the arbitrage. Another thing is, TitanX has this proof of burn 2.0 function, meaning that developers that build on top of TitanX, they can set a build reward up to 8%, meaning that if somebody, let's say I come in and I burn for a billion for a protocol, they can get up to 8% of that. They can set 1%, 2%, 3%, 0%, 8%. They can choose. It's a function. It's a variable in the function. So 80 million of that would either go to the developer. What we're doing with Hyper is we're not sending it to us. We're sending it to the Hyper buy and burn contract. So what that will do is the 8% will go to the Hyper buy and burn contract, which will then swap the TitanX. The TitanX will be swapped for Hyper and then burn the Hyper it got.
Okay, gosh.
So Hyper has a lot of disinflationary mechanics because 1, it's based on TitanX, and 2, it also has a very, very heavy buy and burn function to it because of the 8% TitanX. Yeah. And then also Hyper also has the proof of burn 2.0 function. So if people want, they can also build on top of Hyper.
Well, I think I missed that. So they can build on top of Hyper or build on top of TitanX?
Yep.
Oh, my Lord. Okay, so that brings the next question, which, I mean, there's a lot of questions in here. The chat is on fire. People are excited. How – I don't even know if we could – you probably thought about this, but people are very focused on Hyper. There seems to be this short-term thought process that we need more burning now to control the supply. This is just the evolution of the coin. It's hyperinflationary to begin with. No big deal. What about Pyro? We don't. I mean, Pyro's this. They've created something on Twitter. They're saying this protocol is coming. It's going to burn TitanX. How does additional protocols being built affect this whole web of hyper burning Titan burning hyper, staking this, eliminating the supply? That's going to be a big, like you said, arbitrage opportunity and eliminator of TitanX off the market. But then there's going to be 2 or 3. I know of at least 3 other protocols coming out in the next probably 1 to 4 months that are going to be eliminating TitanX off of the market. Is there any way even to model how all of these could like interplay with each other? It's incredible.
It is going to be insane because one of the kind of visuals I have in my head is TitanX feels like it's just like a pressure cooker. Everything just pushing on it and just removing it. Because one of the interesting things I've noticed, so if you go to app.titanx.win stats.
I'll do that right now.
On the buy and burn, it's 2.33 trillion has already been buy and burn. So one of the interesting things I've noticed is TitanX has a very low market cap because staked coins get burned and then reminted at the end of the stake. You can kind of consider staked coins as forever burned because a lot of them are 3,500 days, which is like 10 years from now. So most of us are not even going to see that coming back into existence. So the market cap, the actual liquid market cap, is 2.2 million. 8 million roughly is staked, and then 13 million is buy and burn. So the actual market cap of this project is 13 plus 8 plus 2 is like 10, is 23 million. But because the buy and burn buys it on market and then burns it, it also removes it from the market cap. So TitanX will always look like it has a low market cap, which is a feature in my opinion.
Oh, I see. So it's almost I don't want to say deceiving, and because that sounds bad, but it is what it is. It's almost deceivingly low market cap because of what you just said, that supply keeps getting eliminated, and the staked coins aren't on the market, so they don't show as part of the liquid supply. So it's just a function of what is available versus the price. So it is almost always deceivingly low market cap.
Which I think is great.
I do too, because in a way, everybody still thinks they're early, which as of right now they are. So you're saying, looking at this statistics page, number one, the first thing that jumps out at me is 56.14% of supply has been bought and burned off the market. This is incredible because we're in a hyperinflationary period, especially right now. There's a lot of TitanX coming on the market, and this number keeps getting bigger, not smaller. I honestly expected this number to get smaller.
Yep.
And it's growing.
It's crazy.
It's like I honestly can't even figure out how that's happening.
The other interesting thing is it can only buy what is on Uniswap. So currently on Uniswap, in the pool there is 97 billion TitanX. So that's the only thing it can actually buy. So that's very interesting. At a certain time, it can't really buy that much. But still, if for example, in the TitanX distribution, so the pie chart, if you click on buy and burn, like the legend above, if you click on buy and burn,
let me get there. Sorry.
Up here? The rectangle in the middle. No. Go back.
Gosh. You think
under the TitanX distribution?
Here?
Yeah, above it.
Right there.
Then if you click on buy and burn, yeah.
I'll click on it. Oh, I didn't even know you could do that. Huh, we learned something today.
This is also very interesting because all the supply that exists that isn't burned, 77% is staked. Do you know another protocol that has 77% staked? I don't.
No, my gosh, that's crazy to think about. Yeah. 77% staked. And I think in one of the Dune analytics, you can actually see how much of this is staked out for a period that is essentially inaccessible, 2888 or 3500. And so when you look at that data, in fact, I don't know, does Mike Dean's dashboard show that?
No, I think it's a different one. I think it's the T data on the Chinese one.
Yeah, I'm not going to bother bringing that up because I don't know how to read it. But yeah, so when you remove the buy and burn, which is 56% of the supply, you remove that, 77% of the supply is staked. And what would be really fun to know, and I'm sure the data exists, I just don't know how to find it right now, is what supply of this is essentially gone forever simply because of how long it's staked for. So then you're really looking at true scarcity, because this, I mean, I have a personal feeling on this, but I think that most people that are staked 288 or 3,500 are going to be burning for hyper, which removes that off of the market altogether. Jeez,
Yep.
that's crazy.
That's another interesting point, because when people burn their stakes for hyper, their staking shares also get burned, which means that the staking pools become more interesting for newer participants.
Right. For the people that aren't burning for hyper, actually their share rate would go up as the pool gets smaller, which is a whole other game inside the game. Question for you. This one keeps popping up. I don't know that I fully understand it, but how does Jake see the TitanX as a crypto moving forward? Do you see it being a top 5 or a 10 in the crypto? Ooh, that's a big question. There's a lot of competition for the top 5, man.
Because of the buy and burn, it can never be.
I was going to say, we just discussed why this won't be, because the market cap.
And I like that.
High. Yeah.
Because we're kind of like the ninjas in the dark, you know? We're like conquering the kingdom and nobody knows we're actually conquering it. It's so good. I love it.
That's a great way to put it. Ninjas in the dark. Take that. Yeah. Now, I'm way behind on the comments here. So people are asking questions. I'm sorry. Let's see. Here's a super chat. We'll jump into this. Manny, the minister, thank you very much for your generosity. I get that long term is the way to go, but at the same time, if price starts to plummet, people will leave. Something must be done sooner than later. This is this kind of like short term, almost scarcity mindset that, for whatever reason, there's a lot of this in crypto. And I'm not saying that to like, be disparaging or anything, Manny, but so many people are focused on the next 30 days. And there's this, I feel like there's a concern level that a lot of people did short-term miners to try to catch these profits, these big profits that people have been posting. And I've been talking about it, might be my fault. And as the price comes down a little bit, where it's 5 zeros and a 6, and maybe it goes down to 5 zeros and a 5, they start to get that scarcity mindset of, oh my gosh, this is going down. This was a losing thing. And they're just not looking out at the future. What is the thing? I mean, for you, what is most exciting for the future for you? There's so many variables.
Protocols. I'm very interested to see what people build, because there should be a lot of builders, because there's a large incentive to build. Like, people can build passive income if they build a protocol on top of TitanX because of the builder reward, which is the goal. So one of the things I never want to see in the community is people pointing fingers at protocol developers, being like, hey, you're making money off of this. That's the whole point. Of course they are. It's designed to be that way. Because they need to be incentivized. Because like in bigger companies, you see this a lot. They're called 10x engineers or 10x developers, meaning that you can hire one 10x developer and he will do more work than 10 developers. He'll cost 5 times as much, but you're saving money because he's doing the work of 10 engineers, and he's just as smart as 10 engineers. But you won't get that top down unless you pay them. Now in crypto, you can't pay people because of securities laws, but the protocol can, the code can. It's not me doing it. So I think we'll see a lot of like top tier developers or brains building on top of TitanX because they're incentivized to do so.
And that's the big difference. You and I have talked about this one off. There's a lot of people that are in the Zen protocol here. And that's one of the main differences between TitanX and Zen, is that there actually is incentivization to build on TitanX financially for the developers with that 8% pool. So, I mean, I think people are lost on that. Tell us the value of that. I mean, for Hyper, you're using that 8% to contribute to the buy and burn, which is amazing. But people that build in the future don't need to do that. They can use that to reimburse their costs of building, or just have an income supply like you would if you actually built a company that's successful. How impactful do you expect that narrative, or I should say, positive attribute of TitanX to be in the future?
I think it's massive, because I remember listening. There's this interview between Ed Milet and Peter Diamandis, and they were talking about AI and longevity. And he was talking about his book. It's called EXO, How to Build Scalable Organizations. And a big idea in that book is the idea of decentralization. So I'm not sure if it's Google, but it's a very big company that works like this. So it's essentially in Google, they don't you replace Google with the company. I'm not 100% sure if it was Google, but it was one of these behemoths.
Mm-hmm.
I think in China, this is a lot more popular. And basically what they do is they don't have a hierarchical structure where there's like one person at the top and then like 3 person below, 9 person below, etc. And everybody reports to each other. The way it works in that company, I won't say Google because I'm not 100% sure, is they have decentralized teams. You have one team that is working on this, one team that is working on this, one team that is literally wandering, finding the next thing, one team that is wandering, and they never talk to each other. They're like independent companies within one big organization. And that's the idea of decentralization. Because if it's only one brain or one person that's coming up with all the ideas, it's very hard to get genuine innovation because one brain focused on something usually thinks incrementally. Like, how do we make this 5% better, 10% better? But then if you put other brains together, they start thinking exponentially because they're not focused on the metrics of the top. They're focused on the metrics of their project, so they can think outside of the box. And the reason the proof of burn 2.0 will be very, very important going into the future is because it builds these decentralized teams. Because they don't need to talk to me. They don't need to report to me. I can't do anything for them. It's all code on Ethereum, so they can just build on top of it, not ask for anybody's permission, do some marketing on Twitter to get it into the community. They 100% need to be marketing. Because one, they make money from marketing because they get a percentage of whatever is burned. And they should be proud for that. They shouldn't feel weird about making money off of it. It's what it's designed to do. You should make money if you build something great.
Mm-hmm.
And then you build these decentralized pods of teams just thinking about different things, and then they build and build and build and build. I think that's going to be very interesting because these decentralized teams scale. I don't need to hire anybody, which is cool.
Yeah.
You can have one team, and then team attracts other people, and then you have like a second team building, and you have 2 dev teams and 3 dev teams and 9, and then it just kind of goes. So that's going to be very interesting to see, and that will just take time.
The advantage of that too is as you said, is the quality dev teams attract other developers and all this stuff. And then when they're in the room, they're going to think about more than one great idea that could then branch off and create multiple protocols just from a think tank essentially coming in and discussing it, which is awesome. Got some people I want to say hi to. Korean investor is here. Awesome to see you this morning. Hex McKenzie. I keep calling her Hex McKenzie from years ago. No longer Hex McKenzie, just regular McKenzie. Good morning, McKenzie. I know why it's happening. I must have missed something in the chat. I'm very, very far behind on chat right now, y'all. So if there's a great question I missed out on, please type it back in there. I'm focused on the guest right now. We will get to the chat, I promise. Let's see. AJ Rip City Hex just says, kicking ass, Jake. Thanks, brother. Appreciate your kindness. Yeah, likewise. Appreciate you being here. So one question that I just allowed myself to get completely distracted on. Damn, it'll come back. Oh, no, it's right here. Look at that. I know the answer to this, and actually the answer to this I think is super bullish, but we'll ask the question because this is one that exists. Can we ask Jake? No need to ask Jake, but I'll ask Jake anyway. What if people stop mining? So staked reward pools dry out and no one mines and stakes anymore. What then? Bullish. But why?
Yeah, because then people start buying on market, which I think that will never happen. So here's something very interesting, and this is one that's just blowing my mind. I just can't comprehend it. Have you ever noticed whenever a project you render is a 2x, everybody's fucking over the moon, happy, euphoric. Like, oh, I made a 2x. And then if TitanX miners, the short-term miners are making like a 2, 5x, some even 8x, like your 30-day ones with like your T-rank bonus and stuff. People act like that's not a lot of money. It's a fuck ton of money. If you put 100 grand in, let's say if you get a 10x, that's $1 million. But then if they buy 100 grand of a coin on market and then they turn it into 200 grand, it's the best thing since sliced bread. It's so amazing, even though it's only 100% ROI. So TitanX miners are fucking kicking the ass of everybody out there. People see a 2x and they're like over the moon. But then let's say worst case scenarios, miners are only up at 3x. You know how amazing a 3x is? And then if you can do that again, and this is one of the things I've noticed. I've seen a lot of people dump big amounts on market and then starting new miners.
Mm-hmm.
If you make a 3x and then you make another 3x and then another 3x, it's 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. You made a 27x. So you don't need to make a 27x. You can just compound and make a 27x. The prices need to go up that much for you to have these incredible gains. And this is not financial advice. It could all nuke to zero tomorrow.
Right.
But that's very interesting to think about.
What I think is amazing about it is let's just talk through that scenario again. Let me bring up the question and I'll share my 2 cents on it. What happens when miners start to go up, or when miners, wait, this is the wrong question. My mistake. Doesn't matter. I'll find it again because it was asked many times. But since I brought this one up, Barone, what happens when the mining starts to go up and is no longer fruitful? I don't understand that. Mining goes up, it's going to be fruitful because there's a lot of ETH coming into the pool. Do you understand this question?
Yeah, it's pretty much just when mining, it's more profitable to buy on market instead of mine, and then people will just buy on market. It's not like TitanX disappears if miners don't exist anymore. Because then at some point, right now, the big reason to be in miner is to be in TitanX because you're early, you get a lot of the supply from being a miner, the staking rewards, etc. But in the future, so TitanX is kind of designed to be this. So when you like build a skyscraper, most of the work is done on the foundation. They go deep into the ground. They build all of these pillars so that it can then hold up a massive skyscraper. TitanX is just the foundation. TitanX doesn't have much utility other than staking. But then the utility will come by people building stuff on top of it. They build a skyscraper floor by floor, and then they put a shopping mall in there, they put a pool in there, they put a hotel in there. And then the thing built on top of the skyscraper builds the utility for people to come to the actual building. It's not that people don't go into a skyscraper and then like, oh, this is very nice foundation. No, it's like, it's a nice hotel here, there's a nice spa here, there's a shoe place, I can buy shoes here. And that's going to be the protocols built on top of TitanX that give it actual utility. So TitanX in and of itself is just a non-utility token with very interesting tokenomics and game theory that has everybody captivated. But then all the utility will come from the protocols built on top. So TitanX is the foundation, and then everything else will come as the decentralized teams activate.
That's so cool. I hear the question often. Well, what if people stop mining? What if this? And then there's no ETH for the payout, so there'll be no incentive to stake. Here's what I think. Please, sir, I would love to see that happen. Because if nobody's mining, supply dies. Because if nobody's mining, the buy and burn, while still maybe not still getting fueled, has $21 million worth of pressure right now to just gobble up what is on the market. If nobody is mining and there's no stakeout payouts, most people will probably take those stake TitanX and burn them for hyper. Less supply. Less mining, less supply. Fantastic. And if there's other protocols being built on that are still burning and still having game theory in them, less supply. So please, mine less. I'm okay with it. I think that works out well too. And from a very reputable source, Mackenzie has only made 900% from miners 2 days ago. So if you're not interested in 900%, you're in the wrong place. Sorry to hear that.
Just for people to understand how crazy that is, 900%. So Bitcoin is currently at 42,000. So 42,000 times 9. That's the equivalent of buying Bitcoin and then Bitcoin going up to close to $500,000. It's like $378,000. If that happened, all the Bitcoiners will be in euphoria. But for some reason, all the haters are like, oh, it's only 900%. It's 900%. You know how insane that is? It's actually more. It's like closer to 420,000.
It's crazy. Yeah. And people right now are like, ooh, win 80K Bitcoin. This is going to be such a big deal. Okay, that's a 2X.
Right. Exactly.
And I see people posting all the time like, I started a miner a couple days ago and it's only showing 151% ROI. What?
Yeah, and it's like a short-term miner. Oh my God, you want to make 2X in a month? Yeah.
It's so funny. So here's a question for you. Obviously not financial advice, just you've clearly thought through the game mechanics more than probably most. What is a better play? Is it the compounding game or is it the staking game?
The compounding is definitely more risky, way more on the risky side. But higher risk, higher reward. It's kind of like that game. So I think personally, what I'm doing, and this is not financial advice, is just 60-80% long term, and then with the 20-40%, you could just do the short term. I definitely would not go less than. I've personally done 60 days. I haven't gone less than 60 days. But you can do the compounding with that because the longer out you go, the less risky you get because you have a lower cost base because you pay less per TitanX that you get.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend both. Both are totally fine. You don't have to go 100% now. You can kind of just play both ends.
That wasn't a very clear answer.
Yeah, and then it nukes to zero.
I know, and then it nukes to zero.
Exactly. Just a devil's advocate.
Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised there's no people asking that. Like, when nuke to zero, sir? This is cool. I mean, I'm sure you're getting a lot of these. I think these are really neat when you see something like this. Trending says, I just want to thank Jake. He literally changed my life. I've never had gains of $1,000 in my life, and with TitanX, it's a dream come true. How cool is that?
It's awesome.
It's
I remember, so I did a Twitter space before TitanX went live, and one guy came on and he was like, "How is this making the world a better place? I only like it when things make the world a better place." And I'm like, bro, you can have a project that feeds third world people, and then they give the coins away for free, and everything goes to zero. How is that helping anybody? And then the other thing, and the other side of it is, the way you make somebody's life better is you just give them a bit of money. Like 99% of problems are just money problems. Just throw some money at it and it's gone. So if you want to help people's lives and you improve the world, you do that by giving everybody a better financial situation. That solves almost everything. So I think TitanX is pretty much making the world a hell of a better place, at least to people in it.
Absolutely. And one thing that makes the world a better place is just giving people some hope. And there's, this last 2 years of this bear market, there's been a lot of despair, and hope has slowly disappeared. And now you're seeing a lot of hope come back. And yes, hope, there's the argument, hopium isn't necessarily a good thing if it's false, but 900%, sir.
Right?
Yeah. Win coin market cap.
So coin market cap is interesting. We sent in a form a while back and they just haven't responded. So I think we have to do it again. It is what it is.
Have you heard from any centralized exchanges, any of the outliers, maybe a MEXC or a Hubai or something like this? Is there any efforts by your marketing team to get there?
Well, there's no team. This is very important. There's actually no team. It's just all decentralized. There's nobody actually doing any work. The thing is, exchanges, the main thing they focus on is volume. And I've been very surprised that a lot of centralized exchanges haven't picked it up because it's been in the top 10 for almost 50 days straight. Top 10 means the most volume on Ethereum. So it's very interesting why nobody actually picks it up. But I like it because when people trade on a decentralized exchange, because the liquidity pool is decentralized and the fees goes towards burning TitanX, the more that happens on the DEX, the better it is for the protocol. So I actually don't care about centralized exchanges.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. I was sneezing. You said you don't want it on centralized exchanges?
I don't care because the more people trade on the decentralized ones, the more the fees burn TitanX.
Oh, yeah, of course. If it's purchased on centralized exchanges, that doesn't exist. But the centralized exchanges will need to buy it from somewhere. So in order to get their supply, they're going to have to buy it from somewhere.
Or there's two kind of ways. One is they mine.
Yeah.
Two is they buy, and then the third one is kind of, there's some centralized exchange. What they do is they list their token on their exchange, and then they allow users to deposit. So they never actually buy the supply. The users go there, they deposit there, and then they have supply by users depositing their tokens on the exchange. So some exchanges have like different ways of doing it.
And then they reward with a yield to the people that deposit.
I think so.
So that way they can trade based on that.
I mean, centralized exchanges are interesting. I haven't actually used one in forever, and I've never leveraged it. I haven't used one in forever. The only reason I use an exchange is to off ramp or on ramp. That's the only reason I use an exchange.
Nice. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if like MEXC started mining, because they mined Zen straight away. They mined a ton of Zen. It'd be cool to see if they came in with like $1 million worth of miners and just mined a crap ton of TitanX. I mean, that'd be great for the staking pools and the buy and burn. Well,
they definitely have the money. Out of all these, like all the people getting REKT for leverage trading, or they have all the money in the world.
Oh man, absolutely. Like geez, the more I think about it, I can't really come up with any bearish scenarios. Other than
they can nuke to zero.
They can nuke to zero. I mean, that's a bearish scenario, of course, and it will, according to half of the people. According to the other half, it's going to be the best thing ever. Do you know one question that came in that I thought was interesting? I don't know if you're paying attention or able to even see this stuff. I'm not a cybersecurity guy, of course. But do you know if there have been any attempts at hacking the buy and burn pools?
100%. Yeah, of course, because it's one of the biggest smart contracts that hold Ethereum. TitanX Core holds Ethereum. That's a TitanX token contract because of the staking payouts. The V1 buy and burn, the V2 buy and burn, it's a hell of a hard pool, like a very attractive pool. So my guess is there's probably been already like close to 100 hacking attempts. It's hard to see this on chain because they usually just read the code and find vulnerabilities similar to an auditor, and then they try to exploit it. And usually how they exploit it is they act as a user. But the thing is, it's been day 50, and there's been a lot of Ethereum in all the smart contracts. So if it would have gotten hacked, it should have gotten hacked by now. And because we got 3 audits, so the first auditor found a lot, like I think 8 things. We fixed all of it. Second auditor, we sent the fixed code to the second auditor, and they all do fixed review. So you kind of get like 2 audits per auditor. So it's like almost 6 audits. The second auditor only found one thing, which was just an unchecked variable in the function and in the code, and that was it. That's the only thing he could find. And these are some of the best auditors. Like seriously, I paid them a lot of money. And then the third auditor, which was one of the best ones actually. The first one was really good. He was a top 10 code arena auditor, and the third one was the highest, most referred auditor that we could find, and it cost a lot of money. He couldn't find anything, and he had a lot of incentive to find. He couldn't find anything in the code whatsoever. So the first guy found 8. Second guy found 1, which was a very, very small thing. It was literally a 2-second fix. That's how simple it was. And then the third guy couldn't find anything. So if we get hacked at this point, I would be extremely, extremely surprised. But people would assume, you just assume it gets hacked and put yourself in a position where you're safe either way, just in case. But yeah. I feel pretty secure at this point.
That's a great way to think about it. Is just assume that it's going to get hacked, so that way your strategies prepare for that.
Yeah, it's just good in crypto in general.
Well, yeah, of course. Crypto Fitness says TitanX will probably be gate kept because it's fair crypto. That's a fantastic point. The fair crypto kind of a mindset of a lot of the projects that are being launched nowadays. I know Ivan on Tech talks about fair crypto a lot. Do you think that keeps the centralized exchanges out of playing with potentially some of the bigger cryptos this bull market? Because fair crypto, they can't get their hands on it the way that they usually do, which is buy at a steep discount from everybody else?
Yeah, probably. It's interesting. But I think in this bull market, we're also going more towards the decentralized end of it, especially with the government overreach and all that stuff. You just see more and more volume happening on decentralized exchanges. Like when Uniswap first came about, you just see the volume of centralized exchanges and the volume of decentralized exchanges has just been an upward trend for decentralized, and centralized has only been going down, or like has been stayed steady. But decentralized just keeps growing. So I think we're going into a fully decentralized crypto world, pretty much. So yeah, the Fed crypto thing definitely makes a difference, because if they're like part of the venture capital round and they instantly list it, and there's a whole bunch of like backdoor deals that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's no backdoor deals here, which is nice.
Exactly.
Prairie Banana says 306 people watching now. This is, I believe, an all-time high for TitanX. No surprise based on the level of activity that's happening. There is a vote for Mackenzie to be the new marketing manager. Also agree. Just have her put up all of her gains, and that'll be the marketing manager, of course. Question for you regarding protocols that are going to be built on top of TitanX. This came up in a live stream I did yesterday. And I addressed it with what I believe is going to be your answer, but I don't want to make an assumption on that. The question was asked, I guess it was a statement. It wasn't a question. The protocols being built on TitanX need to be approved by Jake. And I said straight away, absolutely not. Jake can't be responsible for checking their code or anything like that. It's up to the community to uphold a standard of audits are expected. 3 audits is the minimum. I'm sure you're going to hear this a lot. Like, when protocols come out, the question is going to be, well, Jake, do you approve this? Or Jake, what do you think of this? Do you want to just address that right now and nip it in the bud? Because you're going to hear it a ton.
I feel very wary talking about other stuff because I don't know their security practices and whether or not they're malicious people. So one big filtration item I use is if they don't show their face, I don't trust them. That's a big one. And if they don't show their face, I want to see the protocol operate for at least 60, 90 days without any problems. So they can go the anonymous route, I don't mind at all, but then the protocol needs to learn for a long time before I'll ever look at it or even mention it. Because as a founder, you have a lot of impact on, even if you just say the word, has a lot of impact because it acts sort of as an endorsement, even though it isn't.
Right.
So I want to see at least, if it's a complex piece of code, 2-3 audits. 1 is okay if it's like a meme coin or whatever. But if it's like complex code, I definitely want to see 2 or 3. If there's no audits, I'll never talk about it ever. It's gonna be interesting to see. I don't know how
Yeah.
I'll approach it yet because I don't want to talk about it, and then people do it and they lose money, and then it gets attached to me because I'm the only face. This is one of the issues of having a face and then the other person not having a face. If the other person doesn't have a face, all the blame goes on me, even though I didn't touch it. I had zero
Right.
to do with it because I'm the face they look at. Um, yeah, so if it's somebody with a face, I like that a lot. But at least some YouTube channel, they have made some content, they've done an interview or two or three, like that stuff needs to be there.
And a lot of that's up to the TitanX community to hold developers to
Yes.
that standard. Like this is a standard, three audits, and not bullshit audits. Do some real audits. Now, like what you said, if it's a meme coin, I mean, you can just run meme coins through a Telegram bot, know if it's good or bad. But anything else that has buy and burns and complex game theory, and that's going to be one of the challenges for I think me and my channel. Anybody that is going to build on TitanX might want to reach out to me. And, I got to think about how to handle that. Like if you're faceless, if you're, nobody knows who you are or what you're doing and all this type of stuff, I might just have to say, no, face
That's the thing.
or no airtime.
They need marketing. They have to be in the community for a little bit, and people need to know them. They have to have some interviews, in my opinion. Have to have audits, and then I'll feel a lot more comfortable. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Interesting.
It will be. This question has been yelled at me. I don't know why. What if someone else builds a similar project to Jake's? Like, what if somebody forks this or does the same idea?
Yeah, people are definitely going to trust an anonymous dude that just copies a piece of code because he's too stupid to come up with his own thing. Like, I don't care at all. One is the moment I figure out who they are, they're subject to litigation because the code is closed source. It's publicly viewable. You can read the code, but you can't use the code. If you use the code, and you can see this in the white paper. We also don't have a license, which means that you cannot copy the code whatsoever. Not even you just can't. No license means it's not open for distribution. It's not open for commercial use for other people. You can just read it. So they're treading on very, how do you say it? If they write their own code, it's not an issue. They can use them to take with tokenomics and game theory. Like I don't own the buy and burn. Like that's just an idea out there. It's just the code specifically. If this is the thing. If people are just stupid because if somebody copies the code, which means they're a horrible developer, a horrible entrepreneur because they're not creative enough to come up with their own spin on it, and then they're anonymous, just assume they're there to steal your money. That's all it is. It kind of is what it is. A big part of TitanX is having a very big megaphone so you can actually reach people. Because a bunch of code gets deployed on Ethereum that nobody knows about and gets zero adoption.
Yeah, no, exactly. I've been contacted and told more than once that somebody's basically forking TitanX and going to put it on Pulse Chain. Which, interestingly enough, as I say that, Adam says, "Can we use TitanX on Pulse Chain?" Maybe
if it gets volume in the future, like I don't like shit talking, but the volume is just so low. Like it's usually it's under 10 million a day in volume. That's nothing. That it's not worth cannibalizing a $1 billion a day volume chain, sometimes even $2-3 billion a day chain, for a $10 million a day chain. Like the economic energy that would exit Ethereum to go to somewhere else, I just don't see the upside at all. And then you have the marketing angle of like there's no two things that people need to focus on, and it causes a lot of like cannibalization within the community.
Yeah, division of resources. I mean, we've seen that in other protocols that didn't work out well. When you take a small community and divide their resources amongst by 10, or in this case it'd be 2, is that advantageous? I think people want it on Pulse Chain because they want the excitement of TitanX on Pulse Chain. Pulse Chain is what it is, but seems to be lacking right now. So how can we get some enthusiasm over there? We'll build a protocol that has a lot of enthusiasm in it. But there's downstream effects to that as well. So this is new FUD that Jake isn't real. He's actually AI.
I wish. Give me one of those noodle links where I could just think to my computer. I'd love it.
I mean, you already talk fast enough. I can't even imagine how we'd be able to keep up if we heard what your thoughts were.
It's a warfare. Seriously. My girlfriend oftentimes catches me just staring at a wall for like 20 minutes, just thinking about all scenarios and stuff. You kind of just It's nice, but I've also done a lot of meditation. So I know how to control a bit in the beginning because I was kind of diagnosed, labeled with ADHD. I don't believe that shit. I think ADHD is a superpower. Just means people have high energy. Another word for it is hypomania. I think I have hypomania because I just never run out of energy. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I don't mind.
Just be AI. Undercover Doc says, regarding the other super chat, positive price is the best marketing, which brings in new people. BNB keeps growing. Let's ink the rate. I don't know what the let's ink the rate is. Increase the rate, maybe.
It is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, okay, so win 3 ETH, sir.
Don't know. People just watch on chain. It's so funny. The moment the buy-in button changes and it shows in the UI, there's like 7 tweets about it. So when it happens, people know. It's cool.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of alerts set up on DBank and Etherscan for that contract. Anytime there's an update, I'm sure of it. John Salzar, come on, kindness, ask real questions, not BS. John, you're welcome to create your own YouTube channel, my friend. Were you not here for the first hour of this stream when I asked the real questions? But
I think it's sarcastic. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is.
You think it's sarcastic? Okay, well, let me know, John. It's okay. And if you have a question, let me know, man. I'm happy to ask it. We are. This is your time, y'all. I've gotten through my questions. Let's blow up the chat with the questions and let's hit up Jake. I'm stumped. I got nothing else to bust him on. You're officially goated. This is what we're hearing. That's good news, I think.
I am now a goat.
300 people watching. Smash the likes. Absolutely. We want to get the likes up, ladies and gentlemen. If you're on here asking what can push Titan higher, it's algorithms. So you are the answer to your question. Like tweets, retweet tweets, like streams, support the streamers, get the information out there. The more the algo pumps, the more faces see it, the more green candles attract in new faces. It's very simple. If you haven't been in crypto, that is how it works. Let's see. Anything in the questions that you want to address, Jake?
Somebody asked, is it allowed to use a TitanX logo and visuals to create online shops, selling mugs and so on? So this is a legal kind of gray area because you look up fair use and how to use IP kind of stuff. Legally, I have to say no, but I have to enforce things legally. So to me, it's fine, but just look at the fair use law and try to keep everything as fair use as possible.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a lot of people, I'm not gonna make a TitanX hat, but people want to put the logo on a hat. People want to put the logo on a coffee mug, stuff like that.
I saw some. It's cool. I don't mind it. I like it.
Yeah. I think Marco the Hexagon has made some TitanX hats, which I mean that alone just cracks me up. But that tells you how good this is. So the question about interesting question about the batch minting function. And the batch claiming function. Do you have any idea why it might be more expensive to batch claim than to claim individual wallets? That's what a lot of people are reporting, is it's actually more expensive to use a batch claimer.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I don't think it is. No, it should be cheaper.
Yes. Okay, so
they probably looked at their MetaMask, maybe they did like the first one. Okay, I'll do a single one. No, this might be what happening. Like I'll do a single one, and then okay, it cost me this much. But then when I batch claim 10, it cost me 8 times more. But you're claiming 10. You would have to pay the gas fee 10 times. But in a batch claimer, it's cheaper because it all happens within one transaction. So it's if you were to claim all 10 individually, it would cost more than just batch claiming.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So here's the big question, and this is the biggest question I hear probably all the time. What about day 280 when all the miners come online?
Doesn't matter. It'll be like volatility for 3 to 4 days, and then we're back to normal.
Volatility is the price you pay for the disadvantageous upside.
Oh, legal reasons. It'll nuke to zero on day 28, day 280. I just have to say that because I can't talk about price or
of course. So front run day 280. I've heard a lot of people from the Hex community compare the 280 day 280 to perhaps the what is it, the big payout in Hex that was early on, so that there might be a large sell-off. And the question you have to ask yourself is that opportunity or is that threat? If the price drops 90% in one day, I mean, I can tell you I'm going to be a market buyer on that day. My goal is to have some ETH ready to be a market buyer on that day. And I honestly hope that happens. But if people only did 280-day mints and they're waiting for that, I can see why it's a point of concern. I can see all sides.
One of the biggest things I've noticed, and if people so far have been wrong, is in the next 30 days, a lot of supply coming out, and people assume that the buy and burn is the only buy on the market. And that's not the case at all. Like on a day, I think it was like 12 or 20, somewhere around there, a big Ethereum whale that has a couple thousand Ethereum in his wallet, he market bought $250,000 of TitanX and max staked it. That's not the buy and burn providing that buy pressure. There's a lot of just natural buyers in the market that want to play games, they want to trade, they want to stay, they want to do their things and don't want to wait for mining. The buy and burn is so for example, I think, let's say it buys 350 Ethereum a day. Now, this is not accurate, just use it as an example. That's sure. 700,000 a day and volume coming from the buy and burn specifically. And then you have let's say double that for selling. So let's say there's equal amount selling, which is 700,000. We have $2.3 million of volume. That's $500,000 coming from natural market participants. So the buy and burn isn't the only buyer, which is, I think, a big misconception that people have. There's a lot of people just buying the market, a lot, yeah. Especially if the price drops, they see it as opportunity.
A lot of people do, and I mean, if the price drops to a certain level, you're basically buying miners, because you gotta do the math. Okay, well, if it drops to this level, how much is 0.2 ETH going to buy versus, and then you look at the mining chart and say, well, how long would I have to wait to mine that out? And if the price drops down to 5 zeros and a 4. You're basically buying a 45-day miner at that point. Or if it drops down to 5 zeros and a 2, you're buying it all depends. And so price volatility is, I think, great because it gives you an opportunity to potentially buy long-term miners cheap. It really depends on how you look at it. You can find a doomsday, imaginary, horrible situation in everything, and you can also find opportunity. And I think those that find opportunity are the ones that ultimately are more successful in the future, because there's always a way to win if you're thinking about abundance, not scarcity. Love this one. This protocol is like Zen 2.0 because it deflates a lot faster. This is an exciting point. I love watching you get enthusiastic about this. Talk to me about the deflation curve in 6 months when Hyper's out, when there's 2 or 3 more protocols out, when Ethereum is $5,000, when it costs 2.1 or 2.2 ETH to do a long-term miner, and that miner doesn't even produce as much TitanX in the future. That's the detail I think people are missing. Talk to me about your excitement level about the hyper deflation that's coming very soon.
Very soon. I mean, it's been pretty crazy. For example, TitanX has already been deflationary for 10 days straight. I think it was between day 20 and day 30. So in the most hyperinflationary states, it's already been deflationary, meaning that the liquid supply was a 320 billion, and it was 307 the next day. World supply was coming out. It was 280, 270, 240. I think we even almost dropped below 200 billion at some point. So there's already been periods of net deflation in the system during its most hyperinflationary period. And this is without any projects, without any user burning. This is the buy and burn alone. So in the beginning, you could get 1.707 billion per 0.2 Ethereum. Right now, you can get 1.419 billion for 0.208 Ethereum, which means that it was 0.2 Ethereum on day one, which was roughly $350. Right now, it's 0.208, so not a big increase, but it's $467 because Ethereum went up roughly 20% in that time period. And that's going to drop to 1 Ethereum per. You're going to be able to get 800 a day, and then the reductions also apply. So I think it's close to. I need to look at the actual number. It's somewhere in the sheet. but a lot less, like 11,000 times less TitanX, and it will be 5 times more expensive. So it'll be 55,000 times more expensive than day one if the Ethereum price stays the same, which it hasn't. It's increased 20%. So that number has gone up to like 70,000 times more expensive once we hit the caps, which is day 2,628, which is 2628. 2 plus 6 is 8. 28 is the development number. That wasn't even on purpose, you know? The universe works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, exactly. That's wild. The whole idea that it's going to cost 55,000x more to produce one Titan in the future than today is highly bullish. It does miss when I hear people talk about it, including myself, that it's designed to do a 55,000x. Potentially, the demand has to be there. Without demand to buy that, to drive the value, that doesn't really mean much. And we've seen that with protocols that have the quote unquote best game theory, DXN being one of them, that the demand dried up and therefore there was no value. So the demand still has to be there. What drives the demand? Green candles.
Yep.
Yeah.
Staking is also pretty sick. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's pretty crazy. We almost have 3 million in the next 28-day payout, which happens on day 56. And on day 56, there's 2 staking payouts triggering. There's an 8-day one and the 28-day one. So that kind of creates a price floor in and of itself that is completely detached from the mining price floor.
Oh, tell me how.
Because if you, for example, this happened on day 6 or 7, the price dropped heavily, like in the beginning, because sniper bots buy it up and then they all dump it. Like this happens to every single project that launches on Ethereum. You could buy TitanX on the market at that point, stake it, and get 100% ROI, meaning you get all of your money back from the TitanX that you bought from one 8-day payout. And that could happen again. That's going to be very interesting to watch. So the staking, because let's say, for example, you buy, not financial advice, but let's say some person would buy $10,000 worth of TitanX, not at this price, like if it just drops and it's way below like the curve.
Yeah.
Somebody could buy $10,000 worth of TitanX on market, max stake it, and make 80 or 100% back in one staking payout, not including all the other ones they'll get throughout their stake. That is also a price floor. Because at that point, just market buyers and people that know will just step in and max stake it and get their money back, and they have a free stake.
And that's what we're seeing. The bigger market buys that are coming in are doing these large market buys, and then they just stake it straight away. They market buy, they stake, and then they go away and forget about it. Come back a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later and collect their ETH, and they've ROI'd. It's like, okay, cool. That was great. Now all the Titans on the house. That's fantastic. So Ryan asks, can you add a timer on the buy and burn page to make it so people know 8 minutes is up, you can click?
So this is one thing that we didn't code in. In order to do that, you need a last call timestamp. So if somebody triggers the buy and burn, it needs to store in a variable when the last Unix timestamp was, or when the buy and burn was triggered. The buy and burn doesn't have that for TitanX, and Hyper will have that. So in Hyper, you'll be able to see the timer of the next callable. Okay. And Hyper, I don't think this is still being designed. There is going to be a cap or swap. No, it will have a time limit. The reason we implemented the time limit was for MEV balls, because what they do is they trigger multiple buy and burns within one transaction. So they can trigger like 10 at a time because there's no time delay between them. And then they can buy before, sell after. So the time delay needs to be there on a buy and burn. Otherwise, they can just get abused because they can call it 20 times within one block, sell buy before, sell after, irregardless of slippage. So that needs to have a time delay. And then Hyper, you'll be able to see it whenever it's callable.
Okay. Chihan D Crypto says TitanX is the best concept on the entire crypto space. We're hearing a lot of that. And another thing, people, this is an entire different conversation we haven't even gotten into, but liquidity is burning. Most people aren't talking about that. Liquidity is burning a bunch of TitanX in the background too.
And also has $1 million of liquidity.
Does it really?
Yeah, it's at 920,000 currently.
Yeah, and that's what Srayak says. No one is paying attention to the concentrated V3 TitanX liquidity pools. It's massive. Have you paid attention to the liquidity pools?
Yeah, I have. I paid attention to it.
What is
It's really good.
the value in that? Like, obviously it's burning in the background, but is it short term? I haven't looked at the ranges yet. If you know how to bring that up, I mean, maybe bring up the V3 pool and look at the ranges. I'm curious if the range is really tight, or if we see a lot of buys and sells in the future, and high or low.
One of the things I've seen is there have been a lot of people that put Ethereum to the downside, thinking if the price drops, they'll buy it up.
Yeah.
But most things I've seen is people put single side liquidity just above the market price and let the buy and burn slowly chew at them until they've exited their position. I've seen a lot of that. And the liquidity pool is basically just a representation of how much value is actually back in the system. So there's a lot of liquidity for TitanX that is not even on the DEX. So you have like $250,000 worth of Ethereum in the DEX now on the Ethereum side, but you have $20 million sitting in buy and burns. That's also part of the liquidity, just not in there. And I think Richard Hart explained this beautifully. So in the real estate market, for example, there's no liquidity sitting to the downside or upside, or there's no limit orders on house buying. The moment the house is cheap enough, somebody just comes on the market and buys it up. So the liquidity is sitting on the sideline. It's not sitting on some kind of order book to buy the real estate. So a lot of the liquidity is just sitting on the sideline, and the buy and burn is one example of that. That's more of an advanced topic, but
yeah, it was just like I was reading some questions and I heard something. I was like, oh crap, I didn't hear all of that. But okay. It talks about the value of having liquidity both on the downside and on the upside. Let's see. I don't know what this is. There's a question, but I don't know what it is. So another question that came in, I'm trying to find it, is talking about the T rank bonuses. And that's hard to calculate because it all depends on who comes in. But is there a way? Well, for example, there's a new TitanX calculator on the market. Have you seen that that does take in a little bit of the T rank? But T rank bonuses, I think, are something that are grossly underestimated. Because when you do your calculation on the site, it doesn't include T rank bonuses, and that's I'll just bring that up right quick to discuss this, because it is a big topic of conversation that, I mean, you're missing out on when you don't see. Like here we are with the calculator. If I did we'll just call it a 60-day miner. No, I did that wrong. One miner for 60 days. It shows the estimated ROI being 431%. It shows 412 million TitanX at the time of claiming, but it doesn't. This calculator doesn't include T rank, and right now on a 60-day miner, T rank is almost a 2x of the amount of Titan that's coming out. So you basically get 800 million. The value of the T rank bonus is to not be forgotten. How are you? How can you talk to people considering the T rank bonuses and the value of the T rank bonus?
The T rank bonus is great. Like, for example, it depends on how many miners come in, because the way T rank works, it acts like a global referral program. Because having a one-to-one referral program is sketchy legally in crypto, so we couldn't do that. A global referral program is totally fine. So, for example, if you have a T rank 10,000 and then people start a T rank every time a new miner gets started, the T rank moves up. As the T rank moves up, the difference between you and when you end your miner. So, for example, you have a 10,000 T rank miner. If by the time you claim it's at like 20,000, you get 10,000. So 20 times the 20,000 minus 10,000 times the miner power of those miners. That's your T rank bonus. This T rank bonus usually, and this depends on demand and how many miners get started, but as I've seen now, it's almost double. So, for example, if you get 300 million on a miner, a lot of people are getting 300 million, if not more, just T rank bonuses. So they double. So if they see 800% ROI in the calculator, they're actually getting a 16x.
Don't say that in public, dude. Come on. That's the secret sauce. I'm just kidding.
I mean, it is, seriously.
Yeah. That's awesome. The T rank bonus is a big deal, and that's one of the things that is talked about often in some of the private groups is maximizing the T rank bonus, because it's almost like a built-in 2x or 3x depending on how far out you push your miner. AJ Ripcity, send me an email. I think I finally understand this question. I actually spoke with John Boy about that. It'd be my honor and pleasure to do that. I just got to figure out when. Gosh, we're so behind on the questions. This is crazy. No. Do you see any?
Yeah. Weapon had a question. He says, Jake, can you spoil some projects that are building on top of TitanX?
I saw that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't talk to me, and I like it. Just build your thing and do your thing. I mean, it's cool if they come to me for like tokenomic stuff, but I don't know. I just can't keep up with all the messages. That's the issue. So usually they don't even get a reply from me unless somebody tags me of like, "Hey, Jake, I have a question. I'm building something." Then I'll look for that DM. I'm definitely willing to help on tokenomics. Like I love tokenomics and game theory.
This never ends. When does this end? I guess is the question. Just joined. Is there gonna be utility for this Ponzi token, or is it just a Ponzi only? Well, the utility of a Ponzi is to make money. So I don't 100% sure what you want out of this, but address the Ponzi, if you will. Every crypto is a Ponzi.
That's the answer.
Every crypto is, you depend on somebody to buy the top. If you're an early person, the person that buys the top is the person that loses, and that's the crypto cycle. 100%. Yep. Why is that such? I guess my question is, why is that always the first thing that people bring up about any new crypto when all cryptos are a Ponzi?
Everything's a Ponzi. Like the real estate market is a Ponzi, stock market is a Ponzi. It's all a Ponzi. The entire world is a Ponzi. Treasury bonds are a Ponzi. Everything's just Ponzi. It's fine. It's how do you address it? You don't.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, if you don't like Ponzi's, don't invest in anything and just sit on cash behind under your bed, and then get Ponzi inflated away.
Get Ponzi inflated away. That's very true. Because the fiat printer is a Ponzi. Crypto Pride, what's up, man? Let's go, baby. I need a Lambo. I would love to see the definition of need a Lambo. Want is better. I love it though. There was a question right here. Okay, yeah. So Wacky World says selling with one-sided liquidity will only work if price is trending up. TitanX is trending down due to all the supply. So people dumps instead. You can select the range to be right at the current price and then just slightly above, and then let the trades just bounce back and forth through your range and make fees the entire time. And if it goes up even 20%, depending on the range that you selected, you can exit with a whole lot of fees being earned along the way. But this is a question I get a lot. Like, well, how do you single-sided exit if the price is going down? You wait longer.
Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But I haven't done any liquidity providing yet.
I have. I think I had like 3 miners exiting. I just put the liquidity above market, and it was fine. I think I had to wait like a day for it to run through, and yeah, you can definitely exit that way. You just need to time it correctly. If it's like during a point where a bunch of supply comes out, then probably won't work. But if it's like during a calmer period, yeah, like definitely, yeah. Because the buyer bird just keeps buying. Like it doesn't care if it's a lot of supply, less supply. Like it just buys.
Right. All right. I think we're running out of questions here that I haven't already been repeated. So any last tips you want to leave with the
tweet?
Tweet?
You guys are doing great on Twitter. Yeah. I see somebody like I saw a tweet and then I blocked him because I hate negativity. It's the tweet of a guy just having a complete emotional outburst because he's seeing so many TitanX posts. If you don't like TitanX, go to your Twitter settings, go to muted words, and put TitanX in there. I've done that with a bunch of stuff, like all of the propaganda stuff and news and like the war here and the war there. I just mute all of the words so they don't show up on my Twitter feed. Do the same with TitanX instead of like getting your panties in a bunch and crying like a little baby.
No, I'm gonna counter that. Get your panties in a bunch, stomp your feet, pound your hands, do the whole circle thing on the ground like a bad kid in Target not getting his candy, because you just draw attention to TitanX. I mean, the people that are a bit more of rational thought will look at that and say, why is this such a big deal? Maybe I need to learn more about TitanX. When I see that nowadays anymore, I'm just like, oh, okay, this person thinks that TitanX is a threat, so I need to learn more about it. it's threatening the whatever crypto project that he's in. And therefore I need to learn more about it. And I learned that lesson with Zen. One of the big takeaways for me with Zen is when I was talking about Zen, people were throwing fits and stuff like this, but whales, big players were reaching out to me and they're like, okay, tell me what I need to know, because I see a lot of FUD, and FUD tells me that it's potentially a really good project and it's threatening something else. So I need to learn about it. So I'm almost going to play devil's advocate. If you see people throwing a temper tantrum on Twitter about TitanX, man, pour some fuel on that fire. Let it get out there. Let them just stomp their feet, because it draws attention. What we were saying earlier about the pendulum, it fuels the other side of the pendulum.
Yeah. No, you're right. The issue is if I comment on stuff, everybody sees it. So I kind of have to be careful with my algorithm. Because then what happens is, everybody else, go in. I love it. Whenever I see like a TitanX post that's like a little bit controversial, like from a hater, and then I go in the comments and like 90% TitanX people, and I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah,
I like this.
Yeah. I mean, TitanX is kind of becoming the next Hex, because I'm seeing it a lot on big influencers pages, the Ivan on Text or Joe Perry's that we talked with not long ago. He's putting out a lot of tweets with TitanX, or the very typical influencer tweet, which is which project is gonna 100x this cycle. And man, TitanX is blowing those things up. People are doing it. It's cool. It's all about energy. So
100%.
Be Mindful says TitanX is category of 1. Yeah, that's very true. Can you recommend a book?
Reality Transurfing and Psycho-Cybernetics. Psycho-Cybernetics is about identity work, and Reality Transurfing is how you become God in your own life, in your own way.
Yeah. Reality Transurfing.
Okay. So
Reality Transurfing changed my life.
Yep. Everybody, including mine.
But with this other one, what is it called again?
Psycho-Cybernetics. So that was the first book. It's like psychopath, but then without the path, and then dash cybernetics, like cyborg. It's written like that, cybernetics. It's a book about identity work and how you view yourself and how you can build a new identity and then ingrain it into yourself. Because if you want something you've never had, you have to be a person that you never were. And to become that person, you need to write it down on paper. Like I have a bunch of identity documents of. So I've always done this thing like Jake 1.0, Jake 2.0, Jake 3.0. I even put a post out like, hey, Jake 7.0 is dead now. Now we need Jake 8.0. And I kind of put versions on identities on myself, because at some point I was just a normal software developer working a job. At another point I was a nightlife operator. I did nightlife event. Another point I ran a marketing agency. Then I did funnel CRO within the agency. And all of these different things were different people. Like I had to think differently, I had to operate differently. At some point I had a sales team doing sales. You need to become a different person. And instead of hoping that you become a different person to trial and error, you can actually just write down, okay, to get these results, what type of person do I need to be? How does this person think? How does this person wake up? What does this day look like? What characteristics does it have? When something bad happens, what is his thought process? How do you solve problems? And you read that document to yourself every day, so you become that person that achieves the thing that you want to achieve. That book goes very deep into psycho-cybernetics, goes really deep in that concept and gives you a bunch of real-life case studies of how people just completely transform their life by deciding. It's called identity work, and it's actual work. Like it takes a lot of work, but it will change your life.
Oh man, I gotta read that one. I mean, Reality Transurfing was so good to me. I gotta read that one too.
It's definitely easier than Reality Transurfing, that's for sure. Reality Transurfing is a trip. Holy crap.
Yeah, it is. It blew my mind. Like I listened to it the first time and I was like, okay, I see what's happening here. And then the second time I listened to it, I was like, whoa. All right, right on. Yep. And I've shared it with a bunch of people and they're like, oh, I can't believe that. It's so conceptual. It's too far out there. I'm like, okay, well, I'll see it.
Yeah, like reality is simple. You have reality isn't simple. The universe isn't simple. So a simple solution to a complex problem is relatively hard usually.
Yes, indeed. All right, we're getting down here. It is, oh my gosh, dude, we've been at this for an hour and 40 minutes and I can't believe we still have 300 people listening. We haven't scared them all away.
How many people?
315 was the most we got to.
We got 300 partners. That's sick. I like it.
I'm being called an idiot for not understanding what a Ponzi is. Okay. It is what it is, man. I love it. Fiat is the biggest Ponzi of them all. Yes, it is. This is something that I think is just, for lack of better term, it's ignorance based, not ignorance like in a bad way, but just not understanding how it works. Why is my 8-day payout going down every 8 days? You're getting diluted out of the share pool is what it is. You however much TitanX you staked a month ago or whenever you staked, if you haven't been staking continuously since then and other people's have, your share of the pool is going down. And that's why your payout is going down. And that is one of the reasons that why we see a lot of this inflation that's coming on the market continuously getting staked, because the big whales that enjoy their 5 ETH payouts want to keep their 5 ETH payouts. And so therefore they're staking their inflation to keep their position in the share rate pool. Am I wrong, Jake?
Yeah, I think whales, yeah, for sure. Whales have a very interesting way of viewing life. And you notice is once you start making a lot of money in crypto, you start thinking differently because you have to deploy bigger funds for it to be worth your time. So you start operating differently. And one of the things, and I think it was the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'm not sure, it was like one of the first books I read. And they were talking about, let's say, for example, you want to buy a Ferrari. And then the Ferrari costs you, let's say you want to finance it, not even buy it cash. You want to finance it, and the car costs you $2,000 a month. Better example, you can either buy it cash for $200,000, or what you could do is with that $200,000, and this is real estate. Like real estate sucks compared to crypto, but let's say the car is $200,000 for this example. You can either put $200,000 cash in the car, and then the car is like a bank account on wheels, and later you can sell it on for maybe even a premium if it's an exotic car. Mm-hmm. Or you go to the bank, you take that $200,000, you leverage it up to $1 million, you buy an apartment complex, or you buy a duplex or whatever. Then you get 2 people in there, you get a rent, and then you use the rent to take a loan on the Ferrari, and you pay down the loan with the rent income. So you get a productive asset to fuel the cost of the depreciating asset. The reason I say this is because a lot of bigger people, they care about passive income. And whenever they want to buy a toy, oftentimes they buy that toy on a loan, and then whatever the loan payment is, they buy some kind of productive asset that pays for the loan payment. That's a very advanced topic, but reading about that changed my life. And I think a lot of these whales think like that. They're like, okay, I'm buying this much of this. This is going to produce this amount of income. And then this income is lifestyle expenses. I can buy stuff with it. I can do this. I can do that. And then they base their life off of their passive income, not earned income.
Yep, 100%. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the first financial book I read that absolutely changed my life. Like I was going down the path of, I got a job, I got a good, monthly, I can make monthly payments on everything. I was the monthly payment king. Loans on trucks I didn't need, loans on this. And I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I consumed it like a kid eating candy on Halloween. It was just gobbled up and gone. And 2 days later, I came up, I was like, oh my God, I'm doing it all wrong. And that started, Jeff 2.0. And I don't know what version I'm on. I should probably figure that out just so I need to know what my next level is.
Yep. It's identified through career changes, I've noticed. Because Alex Ramosi talks about this a lot. Every period of your life is like a chapter. One chapter of your life you're doing this, the other chapter you're doing that. And a lot of people, they get stuck in chapter 1 because they don't want to change chapter. But then when you read a book, you don't get pissed off and it moves on to the next chapter.
No, you look forward to it, actually.
Exactly. You're like, oh, chapter 1 is never ending. And this is so funny. Because like people, they were looking into 1 second, I need to plug in my laptop.
Yeah. For those in the audience, we're now getting to we're getting into life theory and books and how to become a better person. So we'll still talk crypto if we want, but I get a lot of value out of this stuff.
1 second.
REKT to Rich, it says rich pleb, poor pleb. Always pleb based. Cash flow is king. You're right, PK Dream Builder. Cash flow is king. Let your assets pay for your liabilities. And people that don't understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
One of the philosophers I've heard is Jake has done different things in his past.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's like, no kidding. Like if I'm like, yeah, I was an entrepreneur in my past, and then you're pissed off, I ran different businesses in my past. It's like, what the fuck do you want? Yeah. Oh, he ran a marketing agency. What's your point? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
That's kind of the evolution. Like a lot of these billionaires and stuff, they start off selling door to door. Are you pissed off at Jeff Bezos for creating Amazon because he did door to door sales? I didn't stick to door to door sales his entire life. Like a lot of these pharaohs are just fucking retarded.
Speaking of that, I think Pesh asks the question from a genuine standpoint. Is this your first crypto project that you've developed and launched, or have you launched other projects? If so, can you give us more insights on your background? Well, you're a marketing guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like usually when somebody launches multiple crypto projects, it means that all of their projects failed and they go on to a next idea. So I'm glad I did, because usually in crypto you only really get one shot. Some people can pull it off multiple times, but crypto is immutable code. So it's not like in software you can deploy a piece of code into production and then users use it and you can change it. If there's a bug, you can fix it, you can push it to production. In crypto, it's no such thing. Your first idea needs to be good because it exists forever on Ethereum, forever. It's immutable code. So you can't have multiple projects. And people that have multiple projects usually means their first idea has failed. So they need to iterate on their ideas and they need to find the thing that actually works. So in crypto is different. In crypto, it's not move fast, break things. In crypto, it's move slow, never break anything, and you only get one shot. It's so different than software development. I used to be a lead software engineer. I led software teams. That was not my first job, but I did that for a good 2 years, 2.5 years. And that was, and then I switched over to the nightlife company. So I used to be a software engineer because at first I actually wanted to work for Google or Apple or a company like that. And then after starting the nightlife company, and I got exposed to Tai Lopez. Like Tai Lopez was a big one of kind of like introducing me to books. And that's when I went on this whole like book journey. And then I read a book a day, like Tai Lopez. I did it for anywhere between 180 and 300 days. I skipped some days, but I read a lot of books, and skimmed through a lot of books. And that's when I stumbled on reality transfer, things like cybernetics, and all of these books. Where was I going with that?
I was
background.
The same thing. Oh yeah, background.
Yeah, background. Yeah, so I used to be a software engineer and then just went entrepreneur. Nightlife company, marketing agency, and then the marketing agency had multiple variations, like local clients, servicing them, running Facebook ads, getting people into restaurants. The other one was e-com, funnel optimization. We would actually build sales funnels and do bulk sales on the sales funnel, and then like upsells, downsells, cross-sell, etc., etc. And we would do that for e-com brands and then run ads. Like for 3 months straight during Q4, I actually, because I was a media buyer within the agency, I did sales and media buying. We managed over $1 million a month in ad spend. That's a lot. So a 1% optimization in a funnel can equal an extra $1 million a year. And it could literally just be changing a headline or changing one word within a headline from incredible to great, for example. And that could add $1 million in the back end. That definitely, I feel like TitanX is a culmination of everything, just the software engineering side, architecture, engineering, how to think through problems, how systems operate, the zero waste principle, first principles thinking. All of that came from software engineering. And then implementing this funnel CRO and marketing angle is kind of how you get TitanX.
I mean, it's a culmination of your past experience. You learn the lessons and apply it moving forward to version 2, and then version 2 learns lessons and applies it to V3. It's the, like you said, Jake, where are we? Jake 7.0? Is that where we are today?
8.0.
Nice. Congratulations. That's awesome. Quick question on the buy and burn. Does activating the buy and burn benefit you? Why not wait for other people to activate it? Well,
of course it benefits me. I have my personal money in Titan. Yeah.
I think he was asking from not a you, Jake Sharpe, but just the clicker. Does it benefit the person that clicks the button?
Oh, yeah. The buy and burn. Yes. So currently it's 2.8 Ethereum, which means you get 0.33% of that, which I think is like 0. Let me actually calculate it. So it's 2.8 Ethereum. It's 0.00924 Ethereum. So I think you get roughly $28 back, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So depending on what the GUI is, it might be break even or potentially in the positive, but not a lot. It's close to a break even to make the transaction.
This is an interesting thing. Like the buy and burn doesn't even need to be profitable to call it, because as you've seen now, people almost call it every time, even when it was 1 Ethereum and it wasn't profitable at all, because they have such a large position in miners where if they call the buy and burn, the position moves up 1 to 2%. So if you have a $100,000 position and your position moves up $1,000 or $2,000 every time you call it, that's your ROI on calling the buy and burn. Like people, this is one-dimensional thinking is 0.33%. That's it. But then you move up the price, you attract other people in, and increases staking rewards, etc., etc. There's a whole slew of consequences that happen from calling the buy and burn repeatedly. even if you don't ROI on the 0.33% from calling the buy and burn, because it moves your position up, and that's your profit.
Yeah.
Which is why people just call it all the time, even if it's not profitable.
Frosty Dog is in the house. I'm gonna go surfing with this guy.
Nice.
Yeah,
You're gonna go surfing and get a dog?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the old Spud McKenzie. You're probably too young to remember the Bud Light dog that used to surf Spud McKenzie. But there's somebody on this chat right now that's laughing at the fact that I just said that, and good for them. Pesh brings this up, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because I know you're super engaged with mental health and health of your body. It's kind of a, I don't know, politically correct thing to say. I don't really care though. He says, I don't trust fat CEOs. If you don't take care of yourself, I can't trust you. Been burnt by too many fat CEOs. Please work out and take care of your mind and body. What is the value of that in your position of taking care of mind and body for how it helps you with TitanX?
So people oftentimes have this misconception that money and health are these two separate things. And that's not the case at all, because the healthier you are, the more money you make. So when you go to the gym, you work on your health, you take your nootropics, you take your supplements, you're healthier, which means you have better thoughts. Better thoughts lead to better outcomes, better decision making, which leads to more money. So people working on their health actually make more money. So just imagine if you're obese and fat and you run a business. We've all been sick. Imagine when you have the flu. How good of an operator are you? How much money are you making when you're sick in bed, barely being able to breathe because you have the flu? And being obese and unhealthy is pretty much living in a perpetual state of sickness. So some people can pull it off, being fat and having a great outcome. But the pendulum has swung. Like from all the and I spend a lot of money on masterminds. Like I'm part of a lot of masterminds for a bunch of stuff: biohacking, detoxing, business, sales, lead acquisition. And a big topic of focus, usually 20% of the mastermind conversations are around health. Like how do you make sure you make the right decisions? How do you keep your mind calm so you don't make impulsive decisions? Because I think if you look at being fat as living in a perpetual state of sickness, just imagine how much money a sick person can make compared to a healthy person. Yeah, fat people just in general make worse decisions. Because even look at Elon Musk is like this, how do you say it? Elon Musk focuses on his health. He just has a lot of stress. And it's very hard to be healthy when you're under that much stress.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, which is another man's richest world. Jeff Bezos is jacked. Have you seen Jeff Bezos?
Yeah. He looks like
Exactly.
Vin Diesel.
Exactly. And a lot of these bigger CEOs, they focus on their health. And focusing on your health means the right supplements, the right vitamins, maybe even taking the tropics during your work, like alpha GPC, L-tyrosine, all of these things, just natural supplements. Going to the gym, going for walks. Being healthy doesn't mean being jacked in general. Being healthy just means you give your body what it needs so you have the highest energy level possible so you can live your best life. Yeah.
No,
I don't know. I don't like fat people.
Richard Hart is the exception to that rule, real mastermind.
But Richard Hart even was healthy because he was like deadlifting hard, pulled up hard. He just had all his food issues, and he was always taking his vitamins and stuff. So in general, he's fat, but he's healthy mentally and physically. He just doesn't look jacked, which is interesting.
That happens. Wacky World says the last B&B buy and burn was $21 reward, $18.91 in cost. So there you go. People asking. It's net positive right now. So damn, I guess I better get a treadmill. Do high intensity workouts better than treadmill. Treadmill's better than nothing, but weightlifting is better.
The best thing you can do by far if you don't have time for the gym, because like for example, when I was building TitanX, I didn't go to the gym for 2 months, and all I did was basically steam bath, sauna, and getting 10 to 15,000 steps a day. So I will go for a lot of walks. And if you do that, very healthy body. You won't be super shredded. Like I went from shredded to being not shredded. It's not muscles because you don't lose your muscles that quick as long as you move.
Mm-hmm.
But just 15,000 steps. There's been new studies that like 15,000 steps is kind of the optimal zone now. Taking supplements, your vitamins, eating relatively healthy, you should be fine as long as you're moving. You don't need to be jacked to be healthy.
That's true. I mean, the value of touching grass is so important. I mean, you hear people saying it all the time, but I know for myself, sometimes when I sit in my office and I just work and work and work, I do find myself kind of getting like a subliminal, not subliminal, but a subtle, excuse me, level of stress building up. And then I'll just go outside. I'll grab the dogs. I'll go for a 1.5 mile walk, you know, touch some grass, go through the woods, smell the pines, and I'll come back a completely different person. And my wife will yell at me. She'll be like, "It's time for you to go outside, Jeffrey." Like I'm a bad kid because she can see me get like just kind of too stationary, sedentary.
I mean, this is so funny. My girlfriend took a video of me once working, and I was sitting like this. I was like, "Yeah, I don't think that's healthy. I think I should move a little bit more."
Yes, indeed. All right, man. Well, speaking of all that type of stuff, I've got to go work out because I got a big day ahead of me and I got to get that workout in. So we're going to wrap it up. We've had 2 super chats come in this morning. Huge thanks out to Manny, the minister, and Undercover Doc for being here today. 323 people was actually the max that we touched listening for almost 2 hours. That tells you that people are engaged with TitanX, which is fascinating. They're also excited to have you back. So thank you for coming onto the channel as always. Probably going to be about a 3-week hiatus for you and I because I'm going to Puerto Rico. And I'm going to take care of me. I'm going to touch some sand.
Nice. Did you say 323?
323. That's the new benchmark for TitanX streams. Let's see. I want to see my my streaming colleagues one-up me. That's the challenge.
You know, this is the universe works in mysterious ways. 3 + 2 + 3, right? That's funny.
There you go. I didn't even know that. I just said the number. Been on the treadmill for over an hour listening to the stream. Awesome. Well done. Z-Bar says, awesome session today, Jeff and Jake. Really digging TitanX and everything that's forming. Absolutely. Cool. Well, we're just going to wrap it up there. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Jake, for taking time out of your day to spend with myself and with the community, educating further and further. Excited for Hyper. Looking forward to the Hyper white paper. We've got other protocols coming on. I think I have kind of buried the hatchet on some of the questions that we hear a lot about, like the V1, the V2, the buy and burn, the movement in the Genesis wallet, all of this type of stuff. I appreciate your transparency on all that. Yeah, it is what it is. So the answer's live within the stream. If you're late, catch it from the beginning. Replay will be available. And for everybody else, have a wonderful weekend.